Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the weekly edition of the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game of Fans First Sports Network. Thanks for coming in for your weekly dive into the world of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And listen, technically speaking, the Jags put a W on their win-loss record, but how much they actually won, that's a question for the ages after all. Sure, true, technically speaking, they had more points than the Tennessee Titans, even though both teams combined for the lowest point total of the year at 16. And really the only loser in the game was America, who had to watch it, much like me and my personal champion who helps me get through tough games like this, talking about them with you out there, Duval Devout, in the form of my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes of Big Cat Country. What's good with your family?
Hey, man, I'm living the dream, bro. Doing well. How about you?
Hey, listen, man, I'm just trying to make things happen and trying to listen. You got to love when your book ended during the week by a game like the Tennessee Titans, which we talked about at great length on the Duval Dive live this past Sunday. By the way, Duval Dive YouTube channel, like and subscribe if you haven't yet. And then the other end of the bookend is a disaster in the form of the New York Jets. Listen, everybody's favorite AFC soap opera. It's been a fun thing all the way around. And listen, Travis, I'll tell you this. Perhaps you remember from the preseason, I called this Week 15 game one that the Jags would most assuredly win, right? Yep. Kind of like I did with the Colts.
That you did.
I said they'd beat the Bears. Okay, I got that one wrong. But I really think I'm still going to be able to hold true despite the fact that the Jaguars are where they are in the record, only having gotten their fourth win after being mathematically eliminated. And it leads me to this question, because as I'm toiling with this, I'm walking through it. I want to take this to you for all our complaining about Trent Baalke and the state of the Jacksonville Jaguars and how they did precisely nothing to adjust things in the bye week. Which franchise do you really think is in a worse way about itself right now?
Ooh, that's hard, bro. I mean, you're asking what's the worst of the worst. Which one is in more of a which one has a bigger hole to dig themselves out of? That's rough.
Which is the larger volume of dog water? Yes. Which is the bigger dog bowl? That's right.
Jeez, I'm probably going to go with the New York Jets, and that sucks. I mean, I guess it sucks for everybody. There are no winners here. Just let's be clear about this. But it's probably going to be the New York Jets because the Jaguars have a quarterback. Like, if you just start there, the Jets have receivers, cool. But the hardest thing to find in the NFL is a quality head coach, check, and a quarterback, cool. Jaguars got one of those. We don't have a second one. I think we're pretty confirmed on that one. And the GM situation and everything else. But the Jaguars absolutely have the quarterback. And well, that's one step down. You're one higher of a quality head coach, quality GM from at least being on the right track to getting this thing flipped around. So I'm going with the Jets absolutely having the worst situation for that purpose.
Yeah, I like where you're going with the Jets in that particular situation because, listen, say what you will about Aaron Charles Rodgers. He deserves 3-name status for what he did in the day, but he ain't that guy. He ain't been that guy for a minute. I could even argue he wasn't that guy when he left your boy, Matt LaFleur, that last year in Green Bay, right? But it's not even just on the field stuff that Aaron Charles Rodgers does that slows the Jets of East Rutherford, right? Right now, if he stays healthy, right, he hasn't necessarily been performing well this season, even though they got him the weapons he asked for, even though then they went back and got more weapons he asked for, right? Then on top of that, he's now batting around with the idea of sticking around another year or talking about maybe I should be a GM. Then somewhere in there you have Woody Johnson who's getting caught up and maybe getting a cabinet spot with the Trump administration when it kicks in. Now, I'll grant you, this doesn't matter about politics either way. I don't care who you cheer for. But if your owner is trying to wrap things up and move things along so he could step away. That's a distraction, right? I mean, say what you will about Shad Khan being out of touch. The dude's about to outright not be there ever for what, 4 years? Listen, and then lastly, you're in so much disarray. You got rid. Say what you will about Dougie P. Keeping the wrong coach is one thing. Firing the head coach who's not the problem's completely another. And you got Rex Ryan calling any radio station that'll have him on, now campaigning to coach the Jets again. At the end of the day, I think you and I will agree the problems mostly, or I should say the healing begins and ends surrounding Trent Baalke. The Jets just have bigger problems at the top, wouldn't you say?
I don't know that I would say at the top, because if you consider the top to be Aaron Rodgers, then yes, we agree.
Ownership.
So I don't know if I necessarily agree with the Jets ownership, just to be clear about this, because I don't pay enough attention to the Jets. I mean, I got one trash organization to kind of just keep on top of. This is I can't put myself through that, watching paying that close attention to the Jets, like intricacies and moves. They basically gambled their future on going in with Aaron Rodgers and then doubling down with Aaron Rodgers. And then Aaron Rodgers coming off of, a major surgery, a major experimental surgery at that, doing the quick one. So the fact of the matter is, this Jets defense isn't bad. The Jets defense is actually moderately solid. Like, I mean, I think I might be doing them a disjustice to say that they're solid because they're not elite, but that offense is just an anchor right now. And it's mainly due to Aaron Rodgers. Like, it comes back to him because, again, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Giants right now are truly, on offense, they're the Spider-Man meme. There are two offenses. They're pointing at each other. Yep. There are two offenses that are pointing at each other, and they both have no identity. And that's really what it comes down to. Both the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Jets have no identity on offense, and then for different reasons. But at the end of all of it, it comes down to the offensive coordinator for both teams. For Jacksonville Jaguars, that's Press Taylor and Doug Peterson. And for the New York Jets, that's Aaron Rodgers. It's funny as that sounds, because it really is Aaron Rodgers, because he checks them out of so many plays and basically just runs them into isolation routes. The same thing that got Mike McCarthy fired is the same thing that got, that's got them eliminated from the playoffs, essentially, and the last coach fired.
You could argue it got Robert Saleh fired.
Yeah, exactly. It got Robert Saleh fired. Like, it's the same thing. They all went all in backing this guy and his system. And the fact of the matter is, for two different reasons. The Jets they have a system, and they don't run it because he audibles or hot routes, whatever you want to call it, out of plays frequently and goes into these isolation back shoulder fades and or deep shots when they actually have a real play called. He doesn't run that. Whereas the Jaguars just have bad plays called, like legitimately, just have no identity, no real system in that way. So they are two bad offenses. And Doug Peterson was right earlier this week when he says these are two very similar teams who are essentially going through the same thing. They both have literally the exact same record in one-score games, 2-7. Both teams have lost 7 games by 1 score. They are truly struggling offensively for the exact same reason. They have no identity. And for one of those guys, it's because of you, the coach. And for the other one, it's for you, the quarterback. So it may benefit the Jets to finally get off this roller coaster with Rodgers and try to build it the right way, the normal way, with a coach and a GM.
I mean, I agree with that 100%. Maybe not catering to a guy, bringing in dudes that really should have an NFL AARP card. Except for Devontae Adams. I'm not saying that of Devontae at all. That's not what I mean. But
but they have a legitimate roster. It just sucks that they don't have any type of leadership. Well, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say this much. Not that I'm defending Doug Peterson here either, but the receiver core injuries, of course, played their role in the offense as well. I don't know that the Jets are suffering from that same piece as well, and they're still, again, the larger bowl of dog water. I'm going to go this direction real quick because I'm intrigued by this comment by Doc Duval. Travis, let me bring this to you. Run this year back with the exact same Jags roster and your pick of head coach and defensive coordinator. This is the part that intrigues me because I'd like to see who you plug in here. How different is the outcome? So let me lean in with this.
Exact
I don't
same.
want you to just be like, wow, what if the Jags had Bill Walsh? Now, we don't want to do that. But let's think about defensive coordinators and
Can I confirm?
I'll even real quick.
Can I confirm? Are we talking people that were available this past?
That's what I'm getting to. That's what I'm getting to. I want to use people who were available, and I'll even give you the answer of keeping Caldwell in the building over Ryan Nielsen. That too is what I'll let you pick. But what this means for head coach, I knew you'd nod your head at that ish. But what I'm getting to is this: the answers I want to hear of who would be the other head coach you'd bring in include, and granted, I'll even say you would have fired Doug at sometime between then and now too. Like, not just, I'll allow you to expand beyond just head coaches who were available 2 or 3 years ago. Like, let's say you want to say Jim Harbaugh, for example. I'll let you do that. I'll let you go DeMeco Ryans. I'll let you go Robert Saleh.
I got my answer.
Go.
I got my answer already. So I'm going with the one that this is going to piss some people off, and I kind of don't care. I'm going with the person that we sort of hired and then kind of had a conversation and said we want to stay with Trent Baalke. I'm going with Byron Leftwich. I'm gonna keep it there right now.
I thought you would too, by the way. You're not fooling anybody.
I'm going with the guy. Like, at the end of the day, the Buccaneers offense in the Tom Brady's final 2 seasons were an explosive offense that was able to move the ball vertically, and they fell off a cliff because Tom did not have the arm strength to throw outside of the hashes.
And the protection went away. Let's be honest.
Right. I've had this argument with many Tampa Bay Buc fans because it's hard to have those conversations when there's emotions involved. But
because when I think about a franchise that knows about quarterback play, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No, it's not.
So this is an interesting. Like, if you don't watch the Bucs football, I understand that people have their feelings about Byron. I don't care. I'm just going to keep it a buck. Like, if you have the arm strength to throw outside of the hashes, which Trevor Lawrence does because he almost avoids the middle of the field like the plague, that's a strength of his arm. That's a strength of his game. I think he would have blossomed in that Byron Leftwich offense, just like he blossomed in the first year in Doug Peterson's offense. So at this point, you're really just talking about how better or how much different would this Jacksonville Jaguars team have looked with a new GM in Aaron Wilson from the Arizona Cardinals at that point. So This is not just a new head coach and a new DC. It's a new head coach, DC, and GM because that was the requirement to hire Byron Leftwich.
Since the posit of the question is same roster, like, you can change the GM if you want. I don't care, but I don't think it's
make it the same roster.
That's the question, right? Exact same Jags roster. Change your coaches, which means you got Byron, and I'm assuming you're going to say Caldwell still at coordinator.
I mean, it would be Caldwell, but it probably would have been, I believe it was Larry Foote. That was who he was talking about. That it's the same, another Buccaneers, another defensive coordinator from the Buccaneers line. I'm thinking, so they probably would have played that same Mike Caldwell defense. So what the material
former Steeler great linebacker too, by the way, Larry Foote.
Right. So nothing would have changed materially in that way, and they still would have been playing a lot of zone defense, which probably means they still would have had Darius Williams at cornerback also. Like, the learning curve for all these guys would have been significantly different. And so to answer your question, just to cut across the grass and get to your point, if you're running it back with this year with the exact same Jaguars roster, but you have the coaches that we had the ability to have in the room, I believe that this is already a 500 or plus team just based on that. And if I'm wrong, it's absolutely not going to be worse than what we're looking at right now. And that's
so your 2-7 in close games is probably more like a 5-2, or we'll call it a 4-3.
There you go.
Okay. Listen, that's a significant adjustment already to the schedule. You're at least not mathematically eliminated with that in mind. Yeah, first of all, and I want the point I want to hit. And the reason I bent over backwards and went out of the way to make sure I don't want you picking guys that are just impossible is because it was on the table and could have happened if you just paid attention and backed the right damn guy. You alluded to it about Leftwich not coming in because of Trent Baalke. If Shad Khan wasn't detached and in the right bleeding thing and would have brought in the other GM that you're talking about, we're looking at a different place. At the very least, the potential for a guy that rotates dudes more often on his defensive roster than I do socks Wasn't an option potentially.
Which is wild to me because we've seen now a lot of the things that's going right for the Jacksonville Jaguars just happen to be all the things that I'm not going to say the common fans, because if you've been in Jaguars Facebook, you've seen some outrageous takes. So I don't want to say all fans, but I will say the most involved fans, the ones who actually are ball knowers, who are truly out there putting in a little bit of work into their analysis. I would say that the things that they've been saying since this team was put together. Hey, Darian Jones should probably be manning the slot. Hey, there was a question. I mean, I guess Cisco, you can't really call that one. I will be honest. And the Cisco, that storyline is how villains are made. Like I don't know how that happened, but it's been a little while. But like,
he's got a Green Goblin storyline. Like he's working some serum in his basement, and he's going to get real angry. Right. And
the rotation with the practice squad guys getting 30% of snaps, and sometimes 25+% of snaps. On occasion, you have some guys like Jeremiah Ledbetter. You got Eric Armstead playing defensive end. All these weird things. It's just odd, bro. And once those things stop towards the middle end of the season, all of a sudden the Jaguars defense goes from, I believe it was weeks 1 through 7, they were the 32nd ranked team in the NFL on as defensive DVOA, and then it dropped to 24th in the league from weeks 8 through 13. And it was like, all right, cool. As soon as you stop doing this chaos of rotations all the time up front and as your linebackers, and you finally got some stability there, all of a sudden you're not great, but you're significantly better than the worst team in the league.
8 places is a lot. That's a quarter of the bleeping league, dude.
Just from rotation, just from stopping that. So yeah, to your point, that I was never going to guess that Ryan Nielsen would have done that, because I think I just overestimated who he was and how he would do this thing based on his time in Atlanta.
Right, because at least with Atlanta, they have a tradition of bad defense. The Jacksonville Jaguars, when successful, have had good defenses. I think that's a fact of the case. Whether you're talking about Hardy Nickerson, Brackens, or any other myriad of guys in the earlier days, like they had some dudes that can make you difficult. And you could bring up Jalen Ramsey if you want. I think he's slightly overrated. It doesn't make him a bad player. AJ Boye on the other side, definitely the best duo in the franchise's history. Also in the year where they went the second furthest, I think it's fair to say, right? They got a little farther with Brunell in that group, and 14-3 where the Titans stole the playbook or whatever. But
you gotta bring that up. Why you gotta bring that up?
Hey! I brought that up so I didn't have to bring up the other thing and to make actual members of the Duval devout like yourself cry. You're forcing to, because if I don't say it, you'll tell me that I don't know, Jack. Anyways, you set me up for everything else. It's your fault.
I got you. I'm gonna let you have
it. By the way, Hef comes in. He's back on your big here. Very different. Jim Bob Cuter leaves, regression. Nick Holtz leaves, regression. Doug and Press by themselves, it's a dumpster fire.
But that's no different than Philly. Like, it's the exact same thing. When you have what was it, Frank? He went to the Colts. What was his name? Right?
Not Shane Steichen, right? Frank Reich?
Oh, no. Actually, no. Yeah, Frank Reich. Yeah, they lost Frank, and then they lose. Shane also, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting there like, all right, cool. There's the same thing in Philly. After that first season, when you lose your guys, who are you by yourself? And it doesn't. Yeah, Frank Reich. Yeah, it generally just has not worked out. The more brains, the more guys they have had in that room to kind of bounce the ideas off of each other, it's been very helpful. I asked Press Taylor about this specifically early this offseason because everyone had the question about who was calling plays and how would that impact everything. And I asked him to his face, hey, man, how is this going to impact the fact that you guys have less guys in the room? And he essentially said, well, I mean, that was a strength of ours, and we don't have that now. And I'm sitting there like, well, you have the ability to add more brains to the room. You could have hired another passing game coordinator. You guys seemed like you chose not to for whatever reason.
The LA Rams brought in Scott Frost. Am I right? Anyway.
So for whatever reason, the Jaguars chose not to do it. And now we are back here. Like you haven't learned this lesson from your Philly days. And here we are, man. I mean, the Jaguars, again, your bottom. Oh Lord, I put out a tweet talking about the Jaguars. Basically, the Jaguars stats offensively and defensively, how this thing has worked out now that we're in week 14.
A lot
I mean,
of
the
number
Jaguars.
32s in there. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, you're bottom 5 in yards per game, bottom 7 in rushing, bottom 7 in points scored, bottom 8 in turnovers surrendered, man. I mean, the only thing you're good at right now, and I say good, and that's a relative term, is you're 20th in the league in passing. And a lot of that is based on second half comebacks. Like, ooh.
Also based on your franchise quarterback, who's now on IR.
That helps. that helps.
Well, there's that. By the way, let the record show, despite all that, Travis D. Holmes still beat Will Levis and the Titans. Shouts to Mike Patton of the NFC or AFC South podcast.
Yeah, man.
He's not going to like that one if he hears us.
I know, Mike. Well, we like Mike, but it's just
we like Mike. That's why we shout him out. If it's
Titans related, we just know. He can't talk to me about the Jaguars. I can't talk to him about the Titans. He says he's not a Titans fan. I'm just saying, hey, it's just one of those things. I mean, we have our feelings, irreconcilable differences. I got you.
Hey, yo, man, but see, both of y'all know ball. That's what it is. It's okay. No hate. Right. We just having fun, man. Shoot.
Right.
Doc Duval jumps in. Guess my point from earlier was that, in my opinion, this isn't a terrible roster. Feels like there's a few holes, but otherwise, a ton of talent. Doesn't make sense that they have been this bad. Injuries considered, reason for optimism with a few coaching changes. Doc Duval, Travis and I have said as much earlier in the year. We completely agree with you in a lot of places.
50% agree with you.
Yeah, I said in a lot of places. Yeah, right, I think I agree with him a little bit more than you do. I don't love the offensive line, but I do believe they're against certain teams that they are serviceable. Like, for example, and I pointed this out when it was true in the keys to the game leading into both the Browns and Buffalo Bills game. If you were playing against a group that had a good defensive tackle core, I was worried about you. Okay.
I mean, this is interesting though, because again, I'm listening to the words you guys are using, and it's hard for me not to bust out laughing. Like, I've been chuckling in my chest this whole time just to not be heard. I mean, to do
make it right.
He says there's this isn't a terrible roster, and your word is, I mean, this is a serviceable roster, and I'm just sitting there laughing. Like, if I say this stuff to my wife, hey baby, this meal it wasn't terrible, like it was a serviceable meal.
Don't get seized. It'll be great.
It was a service. It was mid. Like, that's basically what we're talking about. Why are we lowering the bar for what this is? Yes, this is a terrible record. Absolutely. But is this a terrible team? This is a mansion that is built with subpar parts. Is that better? This is a very nice looking house with some great pieces that will grab your attention. But when you get to the studs, are we strong? When you get to the O-line and the D-line,
is it going to survive that Cat 3 hurricane?
Because we came into this dang season thinking that defensive front, that defensive line was going to be the strength of our team, and it is not. It is just not. It is a weakness. We thought that the O-line would at least be, middle of the pack. And it's reasonably, like, it's solid in the passing game, but in the running game, it is not good.
In certain parts of it, it's great. Listen, Ezra Cleveland and Anton Harrison, much love, gentlemen. You're doing your jobs. When Walker Little plays, I'll definitely take that. If that's the middle of the pack for my line is Walker Little, I'm happy, right?
Right.
But
like not every Category 3 Hurricanes
anchor, right?
But like you said, Category 3 Hurricanes. Are you going to survive it? How do you know if you're going to survive it? Does every piece survive that hurricane? Because if every piece does not survive that hurricane, the house still going down. And that's kind of what we got like that. You're going to still have those weaknesses. That's going to be a problem. Right? Help, you said it. Yeah, center and right guard are problems in the running game. And because of that, you're already struggling to run the ball. That's in addition to already having very limited running backs in the first place. One can't pass catch. The other one can't pass block. Well, sorry, none of them can pass block. and you got issues with certain of them running inside versus outside. Like, all of it is very limited. And when you're saying that, hey, this roster is not terrible, I agree with you that it's not terrible. I just disagree that should be the line that we're even aiming for. I'm talking about, consistent playoff performer, Super Bowl, potential Super Bowl ceiling. And it's just not that unless you're trying to build this bad boy like the Cincinnati Bengals and get fluky enough to make it there one year.
Even still, the Cincinnati Bengals try to out-talent you offensively every damn game. That's how they do it. And maybe, I shouldn't say maybe. Well, allegedly the Jags had that when Calvin Ridley was in the building, right? That ain't what happened, obviously. So Doc Duval jumps in. Agreed. Lines need more help, particularly defensive tackles. Too early for draft talk, but that's why I'm a Graham guy. Hey, buddy, I'm not knocking it. A, B. At this point, you're 4 and what? 10? Or no, 4 and 9. Still plenty of opportunity to talk draft at this point.
Yeah. But at the end of all of it, man, yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at. So again, it's not a terrible roster, but to all the improvements that we've had to, I said it's not a terrible roster. It's not a terrible roster, but nevertheless, after all the money you put into the receiver room to not have realistically Christian Kirk next year, to not have ain't no realistically about it. You don't have Zay Jones. You don't have Zay Jones. You won't have Christian Kirk. You now will have BTJ, but you will have a Gabe Davis who I honestly don't know what to call that. What he was
confusing
under Doug's offense.
And
we'll see what he's going to be next year, but he's probably going to be on the roster. To have all that and invested in that receiver room and still need to probably have at least one more receiver on the roster is a problem. To still need defensive linemen, to still need offensive linemen, to still need realistically a three down running back, and that's in addition to safety, outside cornerback. Like there's some true spots where this team will need some true investment. For all of the investment that we put into this team over the last 4 years, that is a wild thing to be like, it's not terrible. I mean, it's a problem. It's a real problem. So again, it goes to coaching, to the original question.
But let Hef land the pain here. He's nailed it.
Yeah.
Personnel
evaluation is atrocious, and self-evaluation is also atrocious. And one of those goes to the GM, and the other one falls on the coach. To be clear,
listen, I'm going to say this. I'm pretty damn sure the GM have a little bit to both of those.
To both. Yeah, that's fair. But the coach should still be involved in that. So, like, you should be able to see what your own issues are. I mean, Bill Belichick, God bless him, was great at that. He knew his strengths and weaknesses of his teams and exactly how to get around them and play guys in certain ways to get around their opportunity areas. The
problem was he had to take the garbage he drafted and apply it. So
that was the issue. So
anyways, who cares? He's gonna be coaching North Carolina here any minute now, allegedly.
Yeah, right? but we talk all about this Jets offense and this Aaron Rodgers led offense that's problematic, just like the Jacksonville Jaguars offense. But also that Jets defense is dang good. 4th in the league in yards surrendered at 306, man. 19th in points surrendered. That's middle of the pack, but that's with a really bad offense that we kind of already talked about. And just like most man defenses, like the Jaguars, they're like 30th in the league in takeaways. Where the Jaguars are 32nd with 8. Yeah.
In the interest of fairness, they are playing in arguably the second weakest division in the league, but then what the hell does that say about the Jags? Listen, we're at that point, my man. I know you probably don't want to do it because I know we're not expecting a super banger of a game here, but the Duuval squad, the Jaguars face the Jets this weekend. Who you got?
The Jaguars have not scored more than 21 points in a game that Mac Jones played in. Meanwhile, the Jets defense has surrendered 26 plus points because they've struggled on offense. I just don't see this as that game because the Jaguars defense is also equally as bad as the Jets offense. So I'm going to go Jets 27, Jaguars 17.
I don't think either team scores that high. I am just as pessimistic about the scoring in this football game as I am about the Titans. Now, do I think they're going to get more than 16? Sure. It's not Will Levis. However, Aaron Charles Rodgers, I believe, does get harassed just a little bit by the edge. Just like, of course, granted, I said the edge was going to harass Will Levis. Instead, Jarian Jones is getting sacks. Wow.
Let's go, DB.
But that being said, I'm going to apply the accelerator here. I think the edge does their thing once again. I think they menace Aaron Charles Rodgers. If the Jags actually wanted to win the football game, I really think at this point they should be considering C.J. Beathard. But for my money, we're going to listen. It's going to be return of the Mac, whether we like it or not.
Hey, Matt Jones is 5-0 against them. He ain't lost yet.
Interesting point. And also your continued disrespect for Cam Little is noted. I say jokingly. But I'm going to go to it. I'm going to say, I got to do a little math to make sure it works out right. I'm going to go Jaguars 20, Jets 17. I got the Jags winning the football game just like I did in the preseason.
Wow.
I can't back out now.
Wow.
It's going to be a stinker, Travis D. Holmes. I'm trying to warn you people.
It can't get no stinkerish than we just saw. We just saw 3/4 of just the worst football I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, what you've done is, hey, there's dog vomit candles and then there's skunk spray, okay? All I said was that this is a dog vomit candle. How's that for an analogy?
I just know this team runs a lot of screen passes at the receiver core, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are terrible at stopping it. Those are the gimme. Those are the gimme throws, and just dump it out to the receivers and let them run. And we're bad at stopping that. I don't know how we stop this offense. That's not very good because I don't know how we play good defense against them.
Because Will Levis, dude. I'm talking
about Aaron Rodgers now. That's what I'm talking about.
True. And also Calvin Ridley, the Ridley revenge, baby. Woo! Yes. Wasn't so hard to say goodbye to yesterday, was it, Travis?
He truly was Duval till he dies, I guess.
Travis D. Holmes, tell the world, my guy.
You can find my writings covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, BigCatCountry.com. We will have the post-game write-ups, obviously, any breaking news or any new additional information that's provided by the coaching staff, injury updates, things of that nature. Save as your favorites. Come on, man. Travis D. Holmes on all the socials, Blue Sky, X. I don't know. I might get a true social account sometime soon. I don't know. Tell me where y'all at, and I'm gonna meet you there. Let's go.
Actually, you do have a good record with that. Heck, you pulled my sorry behind into Blue Sky at the SOTG, just like I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. I can't call it X. I'm a family man. I want to tell people I'm on X. It shall get twisted. Also on Facebook as a student of the game, check out my writings with the Fans First Sports Network covering both the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Orlando Magic. Obviously, the Duval Dive Live will still be a thing this weekend. Travis will talk, and I will talk both mad trash. I have no doubts of it. I was this close to thinking we'd be talking about Walker Little's contract extension. Didn't happen today, though. Thanks to you guys in the comments, we didn't go there. We'll still have to push that off one more week. That's okay. And, of course, my work with the Black and Gold Banneret. Make sure you check out the coverage of both UCF football and basketball, certainly among the coaching hunt for the assistance by Scott Frost in his return. And then, of course, my work, the student of the game, shortly after this, 9 o'clock on Sartoba Media and all the socials of mine and Huddle Up Network and all that. Make sure you check that out. A very interesting college football take I'm going to put out there that I actually made 2 seasons ago. Or, excuse me, last season. Not this playoff, but the previous one. Make sure you check out what it is and how eerily it applies to this season, even though it was last year. So, for Big Cat Country's Travis D. Holmes, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. And until next time, everyone, class dismissed.